Greetings to all the students. Welcome to the YouTube platform of NEXT IAS, and you are watching Daily News Decoded. With the help of this video, we will be discussing articles published in the Hindi newspapers and the Indian Express newspapers dated 17th of January 2025. The articles we'll be discussing will be weakening of rupee, second, SpaDeX Mission, third, Semiconductor aspects in India, 150 years of the IMD, and last, National Immunization Program. So now, without wasting time, let's start with the first topic of today's Daily News Decoded. The topic that is visible on your screen is weakening of rupee. So this topic is talking about the depreciation aspect of the Indian rupee compared to the dollar. One thing that comes to my mind, during 2018, the Turkish currency lira lost its value compared to the US dollars by 20%. It led to this depreciation because of certain factors. First, we witnessed that the investors in Turkey were in a fearful mode, thinking that the Turkish companies will not be able to repay their loans in the dollars. Second, at the very same time, the Trump administration imposed tariffs on steel and aluminium import upon Turkey. This led to the double blot upon the Turkish economy, or I would say currency specifically. But at the same time, the Turkish president said no to the Turkish central bank to raise the interest rates to curb the inflation. This amalgamated into a single scenario which paved the way that 20% decrease with respect to the US dollars of lira we found it. With the help of this example, we can understand that yes, whenever the depreciation of one currency respect to other currency is taking place, there are certain external factors, and yes, there are certain internal factors associated as well. So now let's move towards the very first topic. Start. The points that we are going to cover via this or in this article will be, first we'll talk about the currency depreciation. Second, a little bit regarding the exchange rate system, how things take place. Third, the reasons for depreciation. Fourth, the impact of rupee depreciation upon Indian economy in different sectors. Fifth, how the RBI plays its role. So there are questions that has been asked by the UPSC in Mains in 2018. How would the recent phenomena of protectionism and currency manipulation in the world trade affect macroeconomic stability of India? Now, before we actually jump regarding the depreciation, now first consider the factors that determine the strength of one's currency. We can understand this thing with the help of the three examples. The first is the interest rate. With the interest rate, the thing that comes to my mind is repo rate. It is a rate upon which the RBI lends money to the commercial banks. So if the repo rate is low, that means there are more money for banks. That means now if banks has the more money, they can lend more money to the people, lend more. That means more money in our hands. That means our purchasing power will somehow extend. That means the spending will enhance, right? So it will lead to the increased spending, and this increased spending will make sure that even we may pay more taxes, or the growth will there in the economy. That means the currency will appreciate in that particular moment. Second example, the money supply. With money supply, we can take the example of CRR, cash reserve ratio. It is the ratio that a commercial bank needs to have, or I would say the minimum deposit that the commercial bank needs to have of the deposit that has been done by the common people, right? So if CRR is even low, that means earlier the RBI has asked State Bank of India to save at least 4% rupee out of 100 rupee. Just a situation. That means SBI has just 4 rupee to lend. But now the CRR has been extended to 6% out of 100%. That means now SBI has 2 rupee more compared to the previous situation. That means 2 more rupee to lend to other people. Then again it will lead to this situation that the banks will lend more. We will have more money, more spending will be there, and again we will see a boom in the economy and the growth as such. Third, I would say the inflation. A very common economic principle that a slight, or I would say the slight, inflation is always healthy for the growth of the economy. So this is just the factors that determine the strength of the currency, right? Again, with the help of this, we understand that repo rate and CRR, the role of RBI comes into the picture. Moving ahead, now start with the currency depreciation. We know that now two things are there. The first is currency depreciation and the second is currency devaluation. The currency devaluation. The currency devaluation is a situation when government intentionally reduces the reduces the currency's value, right? But in depreciation, the currency's value will be depreciated due to market forces. What market forces? For say economic fundamentals, interest rate differentials, political instability of a particular country, risk aversion among the investors who are investing in the particular country might be the possible reasons because of which currency depreciation take place. But before we jump, just think towards the exchange rate. We know that we buy goods for say pizza or services for say hotel stay or say services, tourism, and for that particular matter we need to pay in Indian rupee. But there are certain examples or certain goods and services where we need to buy the thing from out of the country. For say buying the American car, going to the vacation in Maldives or Switzerland, crude oils, etc. So for that particular matter, I first as a person, if I want to buy an American car, then I first need to purchase the US dollars, make it a swap with my currency so that I may be able to pay into the dollars. Then afterwards, I may be able to purchase that particular American car, right? This exchange rate is that particular incident. For say, the rate at which one can swap between the currencies is the exchange rate. Or how many rupees would you buy a dollar or a euro is the exchange rate. That is why we may say that $1 is equal to 86 rupee. That means you need to pay 86 rupees to buy $1. Now, the factors that determine the demand of rupee compared to a dollar. Now, understand this thing with the help of the three examples. For say, trade of goods. Now, understand for the sake of simplicity, take a hypothetical situation. There are only two countries, America and India. And Indians have been importing more. Indians have been importing more compared to the export to the USA. That means you are ultimately going to pay more US dollar. That means the dollar will get strengthened compared to the Indian rupee. Why? Because of the demand. This is trade of goods, which determine the demand of two currencies. First. Second, trade in services. Services for say example tourism. Again, Indians buy more services. For say Indians goes to US more compared to the US comes to India. Again, for that particular reason, the Indian people needs to pay more US dollars to the US government to avail the services. In this particular matter, even it will definitely deteriorate or depreciate the value of Indian rupee compared to the US dollar. But Another aspect, the third aspect is investment. For say, I would say, for say, if Indians invest more in USA, if Indians invest more in USA, or I would say if Americans invest in India, now there are two situations. Should I say if the Americans invest more in India, that means they are going to pay more in India for the long term aspect, because this is the investment, right? That means more flow of Indian rupee in India. That means for a longer term, even for the short term, the rupee will gain strength. Rupee will gain strength. Right? Moving ahead, there are certain specific reasons for the depreciation of the Indian rupee, which has led to this particular situation. Talk about the first factor. For say global factors for say COVID pandemic, COVID-19 pandemic, for say Russia-Ukraine war, or for say at this moment Israel-Hamas war is going on, or any other geopolitical situation which will ultimately bring uncertainty in the minds of the investors, and the sentiments will be hurt. At that particular moment, the investor will think that my money will be safe in a particular robust economy, right? That is a factor where the investment get reduced in a country like India, and the depreciation of an Indian rupee will take place. First reason. Second reason, trade deficit of a country. For say increased import of India, or I would say if India is importing more, right? If India is importing more, if India or increased import is there, so trade deficit will increase. Trade deficit will be there. Trade deficit, if you buy more and you export less, that means import more, export less. This is trade deficit. The trade deficit ultimately will lead that the demand of rupee will be lesser, and ultimately lead to the depreciation of the Indian rupee. Third, which is very important and very rational to understand as well, that the rise in the crude oil prices. We know that around 87.7% of the crude oil India imported. Just to feed the hunger, the energy hunger of the country, India imports this much amount of oil, or I would say the crude oil demand. That means if the import is higher, that India needs to pay more. If the rise in crude oil prices will be there, that means earlier India was paying 1 barrel 40 rupees, now India will need to pay 45 rupees. So 5 rupee more will be paid by the Indian government. That means it will lead to the trade deficit. Or I would say not only to the trade deficit, but trade deficit will strengthen because of the higher prices of the crude oil prices. This is this aspect. Fourth, the outflow of the very first or the fourth aspect is the outflow of FDI from Indian markets. The point that I just narrated, for say global uncertainty, or the issue of, or the fear of recession, I would say the fear of recession is there. This thing again led to the situation where the investors take its money out from the country and need to put in the robust economy, right? That means again the money outflow will take place. This even does in the form of FII, foreign institutional investment, and FDI both. this will definitely lead to a long-term scenario, that the investors' confidence in the economy is deteriorating. For the very long-term aspect, it might not devalue, but depreciate the Indian currency if talking to the Indian currency context. Last, the point which is very common and very unique with the respect to this depreciation of Indian rupee, I would say, the interest rate hike. We know that in majority of the countries, in both the countries, I would say, for say in USA, in European countries, the inflation is going on. So now to curb the inflation, their central bank, they raise the interest. They raise the interest rate. So again, the investor will think that the Indian government is paying me the interest rupee of 3, but the other government is paying me the interest rupee of 4.2. So I will having a bonus of 1.2 rupee. That will again lead to the situation that the outflow of money will take place from the India towards the concerned country. This is again a major reason that the depreciation of Indian rupee is taking place or does take place. Move ahead. A very important aspect, that the impact of rupee depreciation, right? The impact of rupee depreciation. The first, increased import cost. If I say first about the negative impact, we'll first talk about the negative impact, right? Increased import cost. Or say, I just mentioned that 87% of the crude oil is being imported by India. So now if the crude oil is being imported, the crude oil in India becomes, increase, or it will lead to the rise in fuel prices in India, right? Now if the fuel prices in India is high, it has a direct impact upon the production, or I would say transportation. Because the prices of the fuels are high. It has a direct impact upon the production and the transportation. It will lead to the situation that the essential commodities, the rates of the essential commodities will be higher. Ultimately, the consumer, you and me, will need to pay more money to buy the essential commodities. This has this kind of negative impact, which is definitely in a leading cause for the country's overall economic growth and the development. Second, increased inflation. Again, as we saw, that if we import more, or if the rupee is depreciated, then the import of raw materials will strengthen, or I say it will be higher, it will be costly, right? So the import of raw materials will be costly. Again, if the import of the raw material will be costly, it again has a direct impact upon the goods and the services, or the goods produced. Again, it will be against the benefit of the consumers, you and I, for that particular matter. It will definitely hurt the Indian economy again. Third, very important aspect is, the increased cost of overseas borrowing. If rupee is depreciating, for say we have a depreciation of the rupee is taking place. At the same time, we know that there is a interest rate hike. So for say company X needs to expand its business in other countries. That means they need to spend more money to expand their particular business. That means this will definitely not be cost effective for the company to expand the business, and it will definitely lead to a situation of slowdown. Negative impact. Fourth negative impact, the fourth negative impact will be the increased cost of production for domestic industries. Again, to that particular part, for say we business, the raw material is expensive. The raw material is expensive. If the raw material is expensive, that it enhance cost of production. It enhance the cost of production. Now understand. Now try to understand the cost of production. That means there will be a lesser demand. It would lead to a situation because of the cost, there will be a lesser demand. And if there is a lesser demand, then the company or the manufacturer will definitely lose the market. Now, if a company or the manufacturer X does not want this situation to take place, what other options does it have? It can have that it may lesser the production. It may lesser the production or lesser the workforce. Lesser the workforce. Right? But in lesser the production and lesser the workforce, in both the ways, the Indian economy is going to get hurt. Right? These are the negative impacts of the rupee depreciation. Now talk about the positive aspect of the rupee depreciation. Cheaper export. For say X person of America, Y person of India. Or for say one apple, if a person is sitting in the America was buying one apple for say 8 rupee. But now the currency rates has been deteriorated. So for him, the cost of one apple will be hardly reduced from 8 for say might be 7, 7.5, 6.5, depends upon the interest rate or the exchange rate, I would say. So the cheaper export will be there. So there will be an enhancement of the export. Right? Second, increased tourism. There will be again game of exchange rate. So for say earlier, one American tourist was spending 200 rupees to visit one place in India. But now he just need to pay 150, 160 rupees to pay his India to visit the very same place. Why? Because the rate of rupee compared to the US has deteriorated. So now they are paying less. They are paying less. So we can understand this situation. Attracting foreign investment. Again, with the very same part, when we know that the currency is depreciated, that means the country will be doing something good for them, for the investors, right? So attracting foreign investment will be a positive impact for the particular situation. Move ahead. The quote that I quoted the last, this is the very last point, that the role of RBI. How RBI plays a significant role in maintaining the exchange rate system of the Indian currency compared to the other currency. The first is intervention in the foreign exchange market. How does they do this thing? This is more important, right? So for say just for the part, RBI buys or sells foreign currencies in the spot and the forward market. In the spot and forward market to stabilize the rupee. For say one example, the selling dollars to curb rupee depreciation. This is how RBI intervened in the foreign exchange rate or market. This is the first example. The second will be forex reserve management. For say there are any external shock taking place or internal shock taking place, and the investors is going to lose their confidence from the side of the particular country's economy. That particular moment, the RBI may say that for say India at this moment have more than 700 billion US dollars forex reserve. That means I am a very stable economy and I may have the power or I may have the amount of money to repay the loans and the interest upon them by my side because I have the forex reserve with me. So with the place of forex reserve management, RBI does play a huge role. Third, market stabilization scheme. RBI under this scheme issues bonds to absorb excess liquidity. Created by forex intervention. Created by forex intervention. So this is the market stabilization scheme. Fourth, monetary policy adjustment. For say RBI adjust the interest rate, in the manner just I earlier discussed with the help of CRR and with the help of repo rate. In the same way, RBI can adjust with the monetary policy aspect for the for safeguarding the depreciation of the currency, right? Or uses, or they may use open market operation. Open market operation just to influence the capital flow in India. Again, last, regulation of the capital flows. So for say regulation of the capital flows, RBI regulates FDI, FII, or I would say FPI and outflows to maintain a balance in the foreign exchange market. So this is how a central bank with respect to the India, the RBI intervenes to safeguard the Indian currency depreciation. At last, one practice question to practice by you. So now let's move towards the second news of today's article. This is ISRO executes satellite docking, places India in the elite space club. This part is relevant to the general studies part, paper 3, science and technology. So now let's talk about this thing. What will be the topics that we'll be going to cover in this discussion? So first, of course, what is docking, why it is important, why at this particular moment India is thinking towards the docking aspect, right? Second, the objectives as well, the uses of docking, and there are two additional informations. First, Bharatiya Antariksh stations, its importance, its challenges associated, and then afterwards certain additional information related to ISS, International Space Station. So now this has been the previous year's question papers on your screen. What is India's plan to have its own space station and how will it benefit our space program? So now start with the very first part. It says SpaDeX Mission is a cost-effective technology demonstrator mission for the demonstration of in-space docking using two small spacecraft launched by PSLV-60 specifically. It is definitely essential for building sample return from the moon as we are expecting with the Chandrayaan-4. Even in-space docking technology is essential when multiple rocket launches are required to achieve common mission objectives. Another aspect why we are thinking that India is going to launch is space, or I would say Bharatiya Antariksh Station. It aims to. That is why this SpaDeX mission has these objectives. The space exploration and communication is one of the key part of our Prime Minister's effort to position India as a global superpower. One more thing to understand. For say space exploration, right, the economic benefit, or I would say the economic potential of India in this field at this moment is hardly 8 billion US dollar. But India at the same time is trying to aim to have it 44 billion US dollars, 44 billion US dollars by 2033. That is why we are exploring a lot in the space. It will definitely reap economic benefits out of it as well. The objectives. The primary objective of this SpaDeX program is to develop and demonstrate technologies needed for rendezvous docking spatially and undocking of two small spacecrafts, which is one is Chaser and second is the Target. Going ahead, certain secondary objective associated for say demonstration of transfer of electrical power between the docked spacecraft. Why so? Because India is aiming to make longer space stations where we require more than 2 spacecrafts to change or to transfer the electrical power in between in the space itself. Second, composite spacecraft control, the very same thing, and payload operations after undocking are some of the critical objectives of this program. Just discuss what is docking. Docking is a process where two spacecrafts or in orbit are brought together. They are aligned precisely and physically joined. The importance lies for say the assembling modular space stations such as ISS. Beyond construction, docking enables spacecraft to deliver astronauts in near future. Third, it enhances efficiency by allowing heavy payloads. Now, why is India conducting a docking mission now? We can understand this thing with the help of certain objectives gained by ISRO. The first, India has a vision to setting up of a space station by 2035 and sending humans in space or to moon specifically by 2040. So again, these are the longer space explorations. And docking kind of technology is needed to attain these benefits or these aims. Second, ISRO is working on, or I would say apart from them, ISRO is working on the key technologies to realize the vision such as new heavy lift launch vehicle which is capable of carrying up to 30 tons of low or 30 tons to low Earth orbit. Low Earth orbit means up to 2000 kilometers or lesser than that. That is low Earth orbit. Bharatiya Antariksh Station we just talked about. Fourth, first robotic module is even slated to be launched in 2028. And the last, it is required for the next lunar mission Chandrayaan 4, with which we are trying to collect the sample from the moon. That means all those longer space explorations need docking technology to be indigenously adapted and explored by the India. The uses of it. As we have discussed, it is useful for the critical future space endeavors, the aims we just discussed. Domestically developed docking technology will be crucial if India is to succeed in advancing its ambitions for say satellite servicing is there, right? For these kind of technologies, India depends in, or for say putting Indian astronaut on the moon kind of thing is there. That is why domestically developed docking technology will be crucial for India. It will allow India to transfer materials from one satellite to spacecraft to another as well. And last, it will demonstrate the transfer of electric power among or between two spacecrafts, which is needed for long-term space explorations. Important articles, I would say the additional aspect, the Bharatiya Antariksh Station. But it is a space station, is a spacecraft, I would say, which remains in an orbit and hosts humans for extended periods of time. We all have heard the story of Sunita Williams ji. It is an artificial satellite featuring habitation facilities. The Union Cabinet chaired by Prime Minister has approved the building of first unit of Bharatiya Antariksh Station by extending the scope of Gaganyaan programs. The significance of Bharatiya Antariksh Station. First, the objective is it serves as India's human space flight platform in low Earth orbit for medium to long duration missions. Second, it even had the design that the multi-module station with advanced technologies for microgravity research targeting national priorities, for example, ISRO's crop study. Third, it builds essential capabilities for human space missions and boosts microgravity based R&D in India. Third, the economic benefits, it will definitely promotes innovation, industrial growth, employment in high-tech sectors, and as the very economic aspect that I said, the 44 billion aim to attain by 2033. Now, there are certain challenges when we are thinking towards creating this humongous Bharatiya Antariksh Station. First, it demands a cutting-edge technology, right, which India definitely needs to aim up with. It even demands a human space flight expertise. The humans, the lack of oxygen out there, the pressure issues are there, many certain aspects are there, changing the room, talking to each other, other living conditions that a human needs to get adapted to themselves. So India needs to use the USA practice where we first create the atmosphere of a particular orbit, place humans into there, make them acclimatize with the environment, then afterwards shift them or land them to the particular space or the orbit of planet. Harsh space condition we have just discussed. Launching and assembling, it is a very daunting task. Imagine a spacecraft weighing at least 400 tons with the size of a football stadium and taking or hovering around the orbit with a speed of 28,000 per hour. Maintaining this kind of launching and assembling is a huge task for India. Energy and resources, India needs to become self-sufficient. Not India, I would say, but even the space station, the Bharatiya Antariksh Station need to become self-sufficient for that particular matter to take place. Human living conditions, the lack of oxygen, pressure, etc. Geopolitical issues. Again, in the future, for say, we know that India is the fourth country after USA, Russia and China to just accepted the docking part. And in near future, for say after ISS, only China is there, right? So India will be the third, so the geopolitical tensions will definitely take place. Militarization of space might take place in future because we may not get ourselves away from the cyber warfare kind of aspect. Orbital debris, safeguarding the Bharatiya Antariksh Station from moving objects like the debris will be a major challenge. And then afterwards, the health risks for astronauts, or I would say the astronauts. For say, we have the example of the US astronauts, they went in the space station and stuck in them. That is why this is a major challenge. Now, there are certain additional information associated with it. There are two fully operational space stations. First, the ISS, International Space Station, and the second is China's Tiangong Space Station. Now, discuss about ISS. It is a collaborative project between 5 space agencies and their contractors from the following 5 countries. First, USA, Canada, Japan, Europe, and Russia. This is of great importance with respect to your prelims specific knowledge. prelims specific knowledge. Now this is a practice question for you to people practice afterwards. For say the Gaganyaan mission and India's proposed space station are significant milestone in India's space exploration journey. This is the previous year's question paper that UPSC asked based on Gaganyaan mission. That means you need to understand how UPSC frames question based on the current important or the current development in science and technology. Practice this. So now let's move towards the 3 explained topics of today's newspaper. The first one is semiconductor industry in India. We have known that Singapore is exploring setting up a semiconductor ecosystem in India. This topic is of great importance with respect to your UPSC examination. So first, what are the semiconductors? If I say in a very layman point, so first I say, so semiconductor is a substance. Semiconductor is a substance that has specific electrical properties. That has specific electrical properties that enable it to serve as a foundation for the computers or other electronic devices, right? Moving ahead, it is called semiconductors because these are the materials with conductivity between conductors and insulators. For say pure elements, for say silicon, germanium, or compounds like cadmium, selenide, gallium arsenide are the semiconductors. Semiconductor chips, these are the set of minute electronic circuits comprising transistors and diodes as well as capacitors and resistors with interconnections. The uses of semiconductors. Semiconductors may be used in very different platforms. For say it can be used in communications, computing, the healthcare aspect, the military system, and then afterwards the transportation and clean energy, and for say other specific countless applications associated. Currently 70% of world's semiconductor manufacturing is concentrated in South Korea, Taiwan, China, United States and Japan. This is of great importance with respect to your prelims perspective. Now talk about India's semiconductor mission. It is a specialized and independent business division within the Digital India Corporation. It aims to build a vibrant semiconductor and display ecosystem to enable India's emergence as a global hub for electronics manufacturing and design. Under ISM, there are several schemes which are in place. The first is semiconductor fabs. The fiscal support of 50% of the project cost for setting up of silicon CMOS based semiconductor fabs. The CMOS is complementary metal oxide silicon, which are there or which are useful for the integrated circuits especially. Second, display fabs, the fiscal support of 50% of the project cost for setting up the display fabs. Compound semiconductors, again the fiscal support of 50% of capex setting up of compound semiconductors, silicon photonics, semiconductor offset facilities, ATMP, etc. in India. Fourth, design linked incentive scheme. Product design linked incentives of up to 50% of eligible expenditure and product deployment linked incentives on net sales over a 5-year of the period. Now, where does India stand in semiconductor market or today's era? India depends on import to fulfill its needs for semiconductor devices, and the major reason behind this import is the absence of semiconductor fabrication facility in India. Industry estimates of the Indian semiconductor market at this moment is $38 billion, but it is going to hover around 109 billion by 2030. This is just an estimation. Another program is Semicon India program, December 2021, with an initial allocation of 76,000 crores it was established. This allocation and the particular year of establishment is of great importance with respect to your prelims examination. UPSC does make statement-wise questions based on this critical information. The recent interim budget of 2024, India has raised the allocation from Semiconductor India program to be equal to 66,903 crores. Now, this is the practice question over your screen. Practice it. Now, moves toward the second topic of the explained section. 150 years of IMD, what the weather agency has planned for the future. There has been journals say that in a multiple of 5 years, any single institution is taking place or establishment has taken place. It has a great importance with respect to your prelims and mains examination in UPSC part. It's 150 years of IMDb. It is a great importance for your UPSC examination. Discuss about IMD. Its India Meteorological Department was established in 1875. It is the national meteorological services of the country and the principal government agency in all matters relating to meteorology and allied subjects. It functions under the Ministry of Earth Sciences. There are certain responsibilities associated with the IMD working. First, meteorological observations provide current and forecast meteorological information. Second, it even warns against severe weather phenomena like cyclones, like nor'westers, etc. It even provides meteorological statistics required for agriculture, water resource management, industrial development, etc. It even conducts and promotes research in meteorology and allied disciplines. This is again a practice question over your screen. Practice it. Now, the third topic of explained section. National Immunization Program. The writer, with the help of this article, is going to say that costly HPV vaccine needs to be the part of National Immunization Program. So, National Immunization Programs becomes of great importance. So, it is a flagship public health initiative in India launched in 1978 as expanded program on immunization, but it was rebranded, or I say it was named as Universal Immunization Program in 1985. So, with the prelims perspective, this information is important. Second, it works, or the governing ministry is Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. It aims to provide free vaccines to millions of newborns and pregnant women annually, targeting around 2.67 crores newborns and 2.9 crore pregnant women each year. Key achievements, if we talk about the key achievement aspect, from 45 per 1000 live births to 32 per 1000 live births in 2020. That means we have got the reduced under 5 mortality rate. Full immunization coverage, it has reached to 93.23% nationally for fiscal year 2023-24. Now, last, elimination of the diseases. For say polio in 2014, maternal and neonatal tetanus in 2015, yaws in 2020, right? Smallpox is there, guinea pig worm is there. So, these are of the diseases are there with which India has got itself free from. Program coverage, this immunization, or it provides the immunization against 12 diseases, including 9 nationwide such as diphtheria, tetanus, polio, measles, hepatitis B, etc. Additionally, it offers vaccine against rotavirus diarrhea, pneumococcal pneumonia and Japanese encephalitis in a specific region, and this is very important information with respect to your prelims examination. A child is considered fully immunized after receiving all vaccine within the first year of life. Again, a question practice to practice by you. Guys, I hope that this video was helpful for you people to understand the major concepts published in the newspapers The Hindu and the Indian Express. Keep watching Daily News Decoded. Thank you very much.